the Green Hell, 1966. The fastest European race cars thought to be the best over 7 grueling hours and 1,000 kilometers of tough running. Ferraris battled Porsches, Alfas battled Alpines, yet somehow, some way, a Texan Roadrunner took on the old world and won. If you're into classic endurance or Can-Am cars, you likely know about the Chaparral. The team's 2E and F models are some of their most recognisable machines, with a clean white livery and a giant wing above the car that acted to provide downforce, and could be flattened like Formula One's DRS systems today. But what developments led the Americans to make those celebrated cars? That's what I wanted to know. So I dove into their history, and just as I was doing that, NPanic and the rest of the world sports car team released this amazing mod, the Chaparral 2D. Built in 1966 and 1967, the Texan team's evolution of their 2 Series sports car is sleek, lightweight and powerful, with a V8 engine that's ready to scream down the Dottinger Straight. This mod comes with 2 versions, the 327 and 427 CI engines, with multiple aero and headlight configurations. And Pasta has designed authentic liveries, recreating specific race meets. If you enjoy the historic WSC car packs or NPanic's Alpine A210, this free mod should be your next download. So let's take this Chaparral across the classic Nordschleife and relive its most famous win. And here we go in the Chaparral 2D 327 CI. Chaparral's history as a team has always been about pushing the boundaries of racing. American race car drivers Jim Hall and Hap Sharp bought the existing road-running Chaparral car name in 1962 and modified the Chaparral 1 into a proper racing beast. With their new 2 Series car, they tried to take on the Canadian and American circuits, winning the US Road Racing Championship in 1964 and taking the 12 Hours of Sebring the following year. Caught up with some traffic, making their way onto the Nordschleife proper, going down what's now the Sabine-Schmitz curve, trying to be as kind as possible to the traffic as I make my way through. With their repeated evolutions, they got faster and lighter, even working with a boat builder to create a fiberglass chassis instead of using aluminium, as they believed that it could lead to quicker repair times. In 1966, they built the Chaparral 2D. Alongside some technical support, the 2 Series runnings and developments were part funded by the tests they performed for Chevrolet on Chaparral's personal circuit. Finally, we get around the Porsche, although now we're stuck behind the E-Type. Oh, making contact. Coming into the Flugplatz, which definitely isn't flat. The Chaparral slides all over the track's bumpy surface. Through Arenberg towards the amazing Foxhole. Despite sliding everywhere, you are somehow in control. From this relationship with General Motors, the Texans could support rapid developments in aerodynamics and a clutchless automatic transmission. As well as this, they helped test Firestone tyres. This helped the team iron out slow speed understeer. These tests helped the team upgrade their cars and supported both Chaparral's move from 5-inch to 12-inch rim tyres, and their subsequent need to swap the 2D's 2-speed transmission to the 3-speed system on their larger engined model. Through Callan-Hard, hugging the corners as we go. Into their 3 fast rights, or miss-hit-miss, hitting the first 2. Now going into the tightest part of the course. However, their key issue was reliability, meaning they couldn't capitalise on their lightweight and powerful engine. Despite being a symbol of Can-Am series racing, they only ever won 1 race. Finding a few more cars as we go through X-Muller, trying to control our throttle so we don't spin out, yet still being faster than the A110. It's all a bit busy through Bergwerk. If you're wondering where Chaparral's famously massive winged design came into the story, the Texans created the 2E at the same time as the 2D in 1966. But where the 2D was evolutionary and built on multiple fast developments, the 2E was revolutionary. Its wing increased downforce so it could corner faster and better than it used to, and its increased drag was minimised, almost like Formula 1's DRS, by flattening the aerofoil via a pedal near the driver's left foot. This design continued in both the 2F and G models. But being on the cutting edge sometimes means falling outside of the rules, especially with the later 2J ground effect car, also known as the vacuum cleaner, which was ultimately banned from racing. Just about holding onto the car. Following Jackie Stewart's line towards the fir tree into the carousel. According to co-owner Hall, they were always optimistic and believed they would win. The car in different forms was often on the front row and leading races, and in Hall's view, quote, "That's where I wanted to be." But the fact we didn't win that much didn't seem to matter. In 1965, they came first in the Sebring 12 Hours, but after being a power in America, Chaparral decided to return to the old world for the July 1966 running of the Nurburgring 1000 kilometers and take on the Europeans. And somehow, they won. Over the race weekend, the Texans were to face down 76 competitors over the complex, forest-lined 14.1-mile circuit. They only sent 1 car to Germany, but it was to be driven by F1 legends Phil Hill and Joe Bonnier. Both the American and the Swede had single-seater success here. But importantly, the ex-champion Hill had driven the 1000 kilometers before, winning in 1962 with Ferrari. 4 years later, the prancing horse was to be the 2D's main opponent. In the same racing category, the Italians had their powerful 330 P3 prototype, driven by John Surtees and Michael Parks. Additionally, Hill and Bonnier couldn't dismiss the smaller engined Dino cars either on this tight and twisty circuit. I'll have to let this car go around the Kleiner carousel first. But able to pass him so I can take the line and prepare myself for the Dottinger straight. This is definitely more bumpy than today. And now jumping as we pass through this traffic. Just able to overtake that Alpha before the bridge towards Tiergarten. Slowing down as best we can. Thankfully not hitting the barriers. Okay, here we are. Let's see how fast we can go. In qualifying, the Chaparral came in second position, 3.5 seconds behind Surtees'. Along the Sud curve of what used to be the Nordschleife course, which is a fun mini track. Coming to Sunday, the Texans were ready for the chase. The 44 laps and 1,000 kilometers began with a single step. At the race start, the drivers ran to their cars in a Le Mans-style sprint. To decide which driver would start the race, Phil Hill opted for a coin toss, apparently telling Bonnier, quote, "Heads you win, tails I lose." The start didn't look too strong for the Swede, as by the end of lap 1 he lost a position and was already 25 seconds behind the 330 Ferrari. Even worse, by lap 3 the gap stretched to 50 seconds behind Surtees, although Bonnier did make it up to P2. For historic prototypes, especially at the Nordschleife, it isn't just their speed that matters. A car's reliability can make or break a race. Braking just before the Flugplatz jump so we don't go sailing off. Ooh, just holding on. Whilst Chaparral worried about reliability going into the race, Ferrari was truly hampered by failures during it. On lap 6, first place Surtees had damage. His right rear suspension had collapsed, with his tyre rubbing against the wheel arch. Returning down the foxhole, Ferrari's lead fell away and Bonnier's 2D finally led the race. But the Italian company wasn't done yet. Their small engine Dino cars remained a threat, with Scarfiotti only a length or so behind Bonnier. Whilst the Swede was fast, Hill was even faster once he took the wheel, increasing Chaparral's lead from only a few meters to over a minute after just a few laps. The wounded Ferrari 330 P3 did return to the fight alongside their Dino compatriots, with Parks and Surtees trying to regain their lost positions. They struggled through additional repairs following more suspension damage from another broken eye-bolt. By lap 27, they then faced a desperate slipping clutch problem that was eventually fixed. Despite being over a lap behind the Chaparral, they continued with grim optimism, as of course anything could happen at the Nordschleife. And it did. Suddenly the dry July summer's day quickly changed. Strong winds blew and rain fell across the circuit, making an already deadly track even more treacherous. The Chaparral 2D pitted for special hand-cut Firestone tyres. At that moment, you can imagine the team must have been grateful for all their Firestone testing back in Texas. Eventually, the 330 P3 of Surtees and Parks couldn't go any further with an exhausted clutch and transmission. A bit slow as we make it out of Exmuller. But the Texan Roadrunner was not out of the woods, as any mistakes would have been capitalised upon by the dinos of Scarfiotti, Bandini, Rodriguez and Ginther. Phil Hill's mechanical background meant he was able to understand the Chaparral's every creak and groan. Whilst this would have helped detect any potential engine or feared shock absorber issues, Hill's most famous reliability issue was with his windscreen wiper. Apparently near to the end of the race, and whilst still moving, he had to open the gullwing door, lean out and wipe some of the muck off the screen by hand. Finally, it was the 44th and last lap. After years of racing in America with an unreliable but lightweight and powerful machine, Chaparral's 2D car with Hill and Bonnier crossed the line victorious, with a mud-splattered but very healthy Chaparral, according to reports. The car's trip to the old world could not have gone any better, especially considering their opposition, and that the car wasn't even fully set up for the circuit. Find the fur and into the carousel again. Now I better put my head down and see if I can survive this lap. Towards the most flowing section of corners. I'm a bit cautious through this section, but at least I'll get through this part in one piece. This car is hard enough, but going through the forest without any safety barriers feels crazy, even in sim. It's a fun car to drive. Of course you have to temper its V8 power, but it's quite unique in having just two gears to choose between. In other 4 or 5 speed cars, you can rely on engine braking to help you slow down, but here you have to give the old disc brakes as much of a chance as possible. But once you understand that, it's absolutely class. Jumping our way towards a Kleiner carousel. A fairly good exit. It's not the best line, but at least I have the power. doing a wheelie down the Dottinger is a pretty good way to sim race, in my mind. I'm hoping for a 9-minute, 26-second lap. Setup wise, I've only added fuel and sorted out tyre pressures. So let me know if you can beat my time. Now Tiergarten, and towards the final corners of the lap. Okay, we've done a 9:24.0. Whew, that was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed this look back at the Chaparral 2D, and the story of how the Roadrunner took on Europe and won. NPanic's mod is a great addition to Assetto Corsa. It's not an easy drive, especially on this track, but it is an absolute blast as you slide and scream through the trees. I highly recommend you have a go. Thank you for watching. This has been Historic Sim Racing, and I'll see you next time.